Hello. I have two questions that I pretty much already know the answer to, but I'm going to ask you them anyway.
Well, there's nothing better than to know an answer that you like. So beat the drum of it just to hear it.
Sometimes I call out your name in my thoughts. Do you ever hear me?
Every time. Now that's funny. You got to admit that's funny.
My question was, sometimes I call out your names in my thoughts. Do you ever hear me? And you said yes.
We didn't say yes. We said every time. Can you hear us?
No, I can't. I pretend I do. My other question is, are you aware of the channeler Bashar? Do you ever communicate with him?
Not in the way that you're meaning, but same energy stream expressing through different avenues. Yeah.
It seems like he goes into more specific answers and you kind of keep it general.
Well, he's smarter.
Okay, now I'm on to my real question. My whole life, I've been quiet and I really keep to myself, and I really want to change that and be sort of loud and exciting and have fluent conversations, basically, but whenever I have conversations, it kind of cuts off and I draw a blank and nothing comes out of it. So
you're really going to like this conversation that we have here, because there is a vibrational reason for that. So first we want to draw your attention to these discs that we have been talking about. So imagine that you have been awakening and feeling good, and you've been focusing on feeling good, and you've been practicing words that feel good and practicing thoughts that feel good. So you have some good momentum going in your own dialogue, and that momentum feels very strong and clear to you because you've tapped into this current that is the source within you. And so it's worth acknowledging that when you tap into that, it can be sort of wordless, because think about the feeling of love and then try to describe it. The words fall far short of the feeling of it. So you're interpreting emotions viscerally, and in many cases there just are not enough words. That's why poets are around trying to put words to feelings. So it's worth acknowledging for yourself that you can get into that good feeling of alignment, and sometimes words almost detract from it because they are bulky and cumbersome in relationship to the refinement of that pure positive energy. So we took a little side trail there. So let's come back to the idea that you are on this high-flying disc and you've been there for a while, you're stable on it, and now you're moving out into your day. Now, law of attraction will bring you together with others who are in that same vicinity, and so you'll meet strangers. Esther has been saying lovingly and somewhat kidding, but really with a little bit of seriousness in it, I've figured out this high-flying disc thing, and I'm really good when I'm by myself. When I'm by myself, I'm soaring, and nature comes and soars with me. The hummingbird comes and does loop-de-loops and loop-de-loops in front of me. And so I'm really good when I'm by myself. And strangers, I've got the stranger thing down pretty good too. It's just all those people that I know that I don't fly quite as high with, because I've got some old pipes with some of them, and so I'm not quite as stable. So as you acknowledge that you're on that high-flying disc, so let's say you're on that high-flying disc and you're feeling really good, but there's someone in your life that you feel a sort of responsibility to. It could be a friend, it could be a mother, it could be a lover, it could be anyone, but it's someone that you feel responsible to have a conversation with, and they are, for whatever reason, not on the high-flying disc. Let's say they're ornery, or they're worried about something, or they're fearful about something, or they're worried about something. That's a common place to find people. So there you are. Now you're on your high flying disc and they aren't. And now you want to have a conversation with them. You don't have words for them. One of two things has to happen for it to be a satisfying conversation. Either they've got to come up where you are, or you've got to go down where they are. And so you've sort of developed a sort of stubbornness of not being willing to do that. And that's what made our friend talk about how sometimes it feels lonely. But you only feel lonely if you're not consistently sustaining your own momentum. If you sustain that high frequency momentum, we promise you, you won't be lonely. You'll be surrounded by others who are as robust and as eager about life as you are. And the conversations flow. So here's another way of looking at it. The other day, Esther was having a conversation with someone, and something in the conversation triggered a story she always tells. And so she tried to tell the story, but she couldn't get the words out. She was just stuttering all over the place. And then she realized, this is not a high-flying disc story. I'm not introducing it because law of attraction delivered it to me. I'm introducing it because something in the conversation, something about the subject made it seem like it fit. When you're following the impulse from your alignment, what fits feels better. Now, let's start again. If Esther is hanging around on lower discs, those stories are easy to tell. But now she's consistently been hanging around on this high-flying disc. It's like the jokes that used to be really funny, that were at someone else's expense, aren't funny anymore, because they don't fit with the vibration that she's been practicing. You see what we're getting at? So that's what's happening to you. So what are we saying to you? Get on that high-flying disc and have as many conversations as you feel inspired to have, and never try to force yourself in any conversation that isn't flowing easily.
Why do I always feel nervous in new situations and old situations
It's interesting that you went there, because we were about to go there with you. That in new situations, before you've had an opportunity to figure out where the other one is. And so what happens with most people, start again, that isn't what we are recommending, but that is what most people are attempting. We're going to show you what we would do instead. So let's back up and make this more clear. So when you feel awkward, or what were your words? Nervous in new situations, it's because in your human way of approaching situations, you're trying to find common ground. You're trying to find common interests that you might have interesting conversation about. But once you begin caring about what disc you're on, and therefore allowing the universe to cause the rendezvousing, that awkwardness will go away for the most part, because you won't be rendezvousing with anybody that's not right up to speed with you. There's a more base reason for your rendezvous. You could be unknowledgeable about the most important thing in another person's life. For example, they could be really excited about soccer, and you might not be, and you might not even know much about the rules about it. Or they might be really interested in some instrument that they play as a musician, and it might not be the kind of music that is appealing to you. But you could still be on such intense vibrational matching wavelengths with that person that even though at the face of the conversation you might not have what feels like natural interest, because you are vibrationally same, all kinds of new discoveries would begin to happen between you, you see. And the most satisfying of conversations are those conversations where the ideas are flowing with you each while you are there, new stuff happening. In other words, when you get together with someone and they just tell the same stories that they always tell, and you tell the same stories that you always tell, and you're rolling your eyes because you really didn't like that story the first 100 times you heard it, that's not very satisfying. But when you are new in this moment, as you always are, tuned in, and you are in alignment with Source, who knows who you are and knows who they are and knows what the paths of most alignment are between you, the two of you will then be inspired. You will feed each other. There's a synergy in that. It's like Esther fashions the picture of roller derby. Did you ever watch roller derby? Long time ago. And they would take their partner and just heave them forward with momentum. It's like you get a thought, and then the next gets a thought, and the next gets a thought, and the next gets a thought. Those are the kind of conversations you want to be in on. You don't just want to know what they might like to think about, so you've sort of Googled it and got some things in your mind that you might want to say. It's the inspired thought that you're having together that makes for the best conversations. You want to go to new places, not regurgitate old places, you see. And so if you take the time to get on that high-flying disc, then the universe is going to match you up with a partner who has the potential of, with you, discovering new thought together. And it's the kind of conversation where neither one of you know for sure who thought of it, because you both rendezvoused at that thought at such precisely the same time that it didn't matter whose mouth what came out of, because off you go further and further and further and further and further. Co-creation at its best, you see.
I have a lot of step one moments.
So if you have been having conversations with people where you feel tongue-tied or where you feel uninterested in what they are saying, then the remedy for that is get on your high-flying disc and then. Get on your high-flying disc and then. So someone says, hey, you want to get together? Can't. Why not? I'm not on my high-flying disc. Want to get together? Can't. Why not? I'm on my high-flying disc, but I don't think you are. Want to get together? Yeah. Oh, I thought you might. I just had an impulse to call you. Yeah, it's perfect timing for me. What are you doing? Nothing. What are you doing? Nothing. Let's get together and do nothing. Yeah.
Can you touch on this real quick? It's not that I don't like myself. It's that I don't like myself. Would you agree with that?
We would agree that we don't want you to not like yourself. We would agree with that. But you're really going to like this. So we said to you that you were born on that high-flying disc. So anything less than that makes you not feel good. And the reason you don't feel good is because you're not up to speed with who you really are. So it isn't that you don't like yourself, it's that you're not allowing yourself to be yourself. The absence of who I really am sucks. It just doesn't feel good, and it's never going to feel good. And so that's a good thing to be aware of that. That's like saying, okay, I'm going to get on the high-flying disc. Abraham, you've convinced me that I'm going to get on the high-flying disc, but if I fall off, I'm going to be so mad at myself. And we say that really is the problem that so many of you have with all of this, is that you want to feel good, and when you don't, you feel bad about not feeling good, which is just getting more specific and carving out more pipes toward what you don't want. So what could you say instead? Say the sentence again.
It's not that I don't like myself.
It's not that I don't like myself. What is it? If it's not that you don't like yourself, what is it?
That I'm focusing on the negative aspect
No, that's the other side of that. Abraham, it's not that I don't like myself. The truth of it is I adore myself. I adore myself. But I don't like myself when I don't adore myself. We're kind of sorting this out.
Yeah.
I don't like myself when I don't adore myself. Well, you got to kind of practice adoring yourself, because you got old pipes. You may not realize this, but there are people who are not in alignment, and when they look at you, they don't like you because they don't like anything. They're on the I don't like anybody disc. So when they hold you, most teachers are somewhere around there. So a lot of parents feeling sort of overwhelmed. And so when somebody has been holding you as their object of attention, and they've not been tuned into source energy, but they've been tuned to this critical, so you sort of develop some of those patterns yourself. But there is not anything in all of the universe that would cause anyone to feel worse than getting down on self, because there's nothing that the source within you is more up on. There's no object of attention that the source within you feels better about than you. And when you find some reason, whether you can justify it with some behavior or somebody else's opinion or not, when you find some reason to not like you, of course you're going to feel bad. That's the very worst thing that you could do. That's the worst you can feel, is to hold yourself as your object of attention and find some critical thought, because that takes you further from who you really are. and for what you intended when you came forth. You said, I'm going to come into this physical body and I'm going to tune to the frequency of my source, and I'm going to hold others as my object of attention, and they're going to benefit by my connection to this powerful energy. When you get on that high-flying disc, you have the leverage of the energy that creates worlds flowing through your gaze. And when you turn it against yourself, it is